Good morning, everyone. Do you see me on screen? Okay. Good morning, everybody. I just fooled you. It was a trick. I am going to be sitting down here because we are recording this session. I bring that up because I want you to be thinking about who might be our camera people for 2022. What we found out is that a lot of people who attended IT Leaders when it became virtual because of the pandemic were brand new for, long-time listeners, first-time callers, so to speak, who really enjoyed the sessions, but didn't have the ability to get here on a Tuesday morning. So we want to continue to give the content to those people. However, I'm not that good at managing Zoom and making everybody sit down. Poor Earl and poor Tanya and Angel are going to have to sit down to present so we can get the video right. So if you know of camera people, pay or not pay, who might be interested in helping us, it would be extremely valuable for us. Please keep that in mind as we're moving forward. I'm going to share my screen right now. It looks like we're okay. Let me share my screen so we can get this in the video as well. Try not to stick my tongue out when I'm doing this for concentration's sake. Okay, let's see if we're still on. Welcome. So glad to see you here. My name is Doug Feast. I'm the founder of IT Leaders. We've been running this program for 5 years now. I can't hardly believe it's been going on that long. We're a bi-monthly peer group for directors, managers, and VPs of IT and CIOs. Really anybody who's an IT professional with direct reports. I see a lot of familiar faces. I see a lot of new ones as well. I'm super excited to have you here. I think everybody's about ready to network in 3D. So why do we come? We come to network. We come to find mentors or to be mentors. And we come, most importantly, to improve our leadership skills, because so many of us who have ascended to a leadership position in IT are victims of the Peter principle, especially early in the career, right? You get promoted to a position from a stellar individual contributor to a position of incompetence as a leader. And so many manage towards a good leader that they had or away from a bad leader they had that oftentimes they forget their team. So that is really why we started this group with the help of the Indie CIO network. Couple of details, bathrooms are over there. If you need to leave early, text me. There's my number right there. And I can get one of the Expedient team to come back and walk you out. This is an escort-only facility, as you found out. And I apologize for the bottleneck up front. We are working out the kinks now that we've implemented Envoy as a check-in system for kiosk. I hope you didn't have to wait too long on that. As I mentioned, we're now recording these events. So if you want to refer back, when I follow up with you on email after this meeting, I will provide a link to you to find this video on YouTube so you can share it with your friends. More importantly, why don't you invite some of your friends to come? If you like the content that you see here and you know other IT professionals, whether it's at church or on the soccer field or in any of your spheres of influence, I'd encourage you to invite them, because more is better in this group. We are not live streaming. That we still want to incentivize you to show up in this meeting. There's still value in meeting with people face to face. So we have no plans to live stream. But again, if you know a videographer, it would be extremely helpful for us to take advantage of that. Check-in procedures you've been through. One thing to note, when you get a confirmation before this meeting happens and after you register, you can actually do a lot of your homework via an email that you'll receive from the Envoy system. You can upload a picture if you've never been here before, and you can do a lot of your registration. So if you'd rather not wait in line and have your badge pre-printed when you show up for the next meeting, you can do it that way. Same great catering from Jonathan Birds, same great content from all our speakers. So that's not changing. If you like what you see, social media, please send a screenshot, take a couple of pictures. We've got a nice group here today, 3, 7, 11, 16, 19, 24, 28. Fantastic. I guess 30. So 2 other people will show up. I'm sure of it. There's the hashtag IT Leaders Indy. We also maintain a company page. There's a couple of different ways you can find us. Rusty Maynard helps me maintain the company page, and we do announcements about these meetings. And if you're interested in sharing something with a group, it's a great way we can publish broadly. In addition to the company page, we also have a LinkedIn private group, so you can communicate with each other. We don't allow vendors in that, I guess, except for me. We don't allow vendors in that. That's for you to talk to each other about hiring or really any of the topics that you might want to chat with another practitioner. And of course, our website, itleaders.org/Indianapolis. We've got a guest here today from Columbus, Ohio. He's very familiar with our Columbus version of IT Leaders. We also do this in Pittsburgh, and we're thinking very seriously about opening an IT Leaders group very similar to this one in Louisville. In fact, I'm headed down there tomorrow to have some chats. So if you've got friends in Louisville who would value a meeting like this, please let me know so I can chat with them. Don't forget about our mentorship program. You can find one or you can be one. And I just had a chat with Adam Russ yesterday. He's a longtime attendee. He works for Metal Powder Products, and he's going to get involved in the mentorship program. There's about a dozen CIOs who have shown interest in being mentors. If you would like to add your name to that list, please contact me. But it's really very simple. It's a one-page self-service where you get your LinkedIn profile up to date. You write down your hallucination of a career path, and then you contact one of the mentors to move forward. You agree to date for 3 dates and see if you've got appropriate connections to help each other. And if it's not a good match, you can move on to another one. So it's a very simple program. Frank Kolawick helped me develop it 5 years ago when we got started, and it's doing well ever since. When we started IT Leaders, we also started the IT Leadership Boot Camp, and the amazing, who knows Lou Russell, the amazing Lou Russell here in Indy? She trained my team when I was a manager and a director at Methodist Hospital 20 years ago. I call her the IT whisperer because she's really good with IT professionals. She does a 20-hour 4-session course that's self-assessments, 360 assessments, emotional intelligence, and a whole ton of tabletop exercises. It's a great program to get into. It's the best $1,000 you'll spend on your career ever, or your company will spend on your career ever. Next cohort of that's going to start in January. We don't have dates nailed down, but we would like to hear from you if you're interested in that program. Here's the fun part. I want to ask you who's looking for a position and who has a position open. Let's start with who has an open position that they're trying to fill. Anybody on any of your teams? Let me get my microphone over close to you here, Jamie. Go ahead.
This is more for starting in January. We're going to be looking at for a data analyst, somebody who focuses on business intelligence tools with a SQL background. That's what we're looking for.
Jamie Yost at
City of Noblesville.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody else with open positions in their role?
Hey, Doug, we have one.
Earl. Not only is he our guest speaker, he has a position open. Go right ahead.
We're looking for an ETL developer to really work around our business intelligence tools. In particular, anyone who has any experience around AWS.
Excellent. Now let's talk about who is seeking a new position. I know we've got a couple of people here who are in transition. Brian, give me a second. Go right ahead.
Brian Fullwider, 30 years of IT experience, but I'm looking for like a director level role in cyber and infrastructure.
Excellent. Thanks, Brian. Anyone else? Mike Rowe. Anybody recognize that name? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I'm Mike Rowe, 20 years in software and architecture, primarily SaaS-based companies, and looking to continue that. Thank you.
Thank you. Christy.
Thank you. Hi, Christy Kennedy. Looking for a direct level position in IT. Previously, was the director over the project management office for about 13 years. So, and a little bit of operations work as well.
Sounds good. Anybody else?
I'm not looking, I'm not looking, but I do have lots of positions open at Cox Automotive. So jobs.coxautoinc.com. Take a look at it. I'm not sure which positions are virtual. So I have positions, but they're not located here in Indianapolis. They're in Texas and New York. So just look at the website. I think there's like 300 open positions. If you do find something on that site, contact me before you put your resume in. Okay.
Thank you, Tanya. Jody, if I remember right, One America has a ton of open positions too.
Yeah, Jody Roselle, One America. We have Scrum Masters, Agile coaches. I actually do have a BA lead position in our financial services, the FIA areas. I would just go to oneamerica.com. We have many openings at this time.
Thanks, Jody. All right, and finally, some gratitude. Expedient is the underwriter of this event. You've all walked through the data center getting back here. I think many of you are familiar with our services. We're 13 data centers in 9 cities this week. We're growing that fast. We just bought the Harley-Davidson data center in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And by the way, if you're wondering, it's water cooled. It's not air cooled. That's a Harley-Davidson joke. Thank you. We're excited about that, but Expedient allows me to spend my time and their money putting this together. And we do this in multiple cities. We are very community minded and we put our money where our mouth is in this sort of thing. So thanks to Expedient for allowing us to put this together. Finally, a couple of upcoming IT leaders events. You're going to see a survey from me. If you're on our mailing list, which you can sign up on itleaders.org/Indianapolis, you will get our survey. We do a survey every year, and Raquel Richardson from Centric Consulting and I go over the results of that usually in February. So we'd really appreciate your input. And then Tuesday, January 18th, 2022 is when we are going to have the next bi-monthly peer group. And I have tentative confirmation from the CIO, the CTO, and the CDO, the Chief Digital Officer of Ivy Tech. They're going to be talking about the massive transformations they've made in their environment. And they are going to be talking for the entire time. We normally have 2 sets of speakers, but they're actually going to be talking about the depth. So if you want to hear how consensus is built and how fights start and how fights end and how they move forward with projects, this is going to be a great session to do that. On to today's speakers. We're grateful to have Earl Shaw, the new CIO. How many months now, Earl?
6 months.
Can you check your mic and make sure it's turned on if you don't mind? Oh, you're on. Great. 6 months at Renaissance Family Life and Health. I think I got that right. I got most
close
of it right.
enough.
Yeah. And then he's going to be speaking on how to sell your vision, which I think is more important than many people give it credit for on IT. And then we've got Angel Henry and Tanya Wallace. Angel's with Genesys, Tanya's with Cox. They're going to be speaking on a practice in inclusive leadership. So thank you very much, speakers. Give me a couple of minutes here to get us set up appropriately, and we'll be ready to go. All right, Earl, almost ready here. Give me just a couple of seconds. I think we're in business. Oh, we need it on screen here too. All right.
Save my neck. Turning the whole
I'd be
time.
happy to do that for you. Thank you for pointing it out. This is why we need a videographer, by the way. You got it now?
Perfect.
All right. It's like we've done this before. All right, try your clicker if you would, please. All right, we're in business. Thank you.
Ready?
Ready.
Doug, thank you. Thanks to Doug, thanks to Expedient for having me today. Thanks for everyone here to listen to what we're going to talk about. And what we're going to talk about a little bit is selling your vision and how it's similar to producing a Hollywood blockbuster. What? How could that be? It's true. Plus, isn't IT a little more exciting than any Hollywood blockbuster you've ever seen? So as we go on our journey here,
Sorry. There you go.
as we go on our journey here, here's kind of the points we're going to take. Gonna talk a little bit about the background so you know who's talking to you. Talk a little bit about that strategic plan and how it's similar to producing a movie. And then the steps: production, marketing, premiere, and then reviews. So first, a little bit of background. So I've been in IT for 25 years plus, in case you couldn't tell from the white hair. 25 years of that's been application experience. I've also had about 15 years of data experience, about 5 years in the operations realm, and a couple years playing around PMO and a BRM experience. So pretty diverse background, a little bit of everything. Really prepared me for the role that occurred to me in May of this year, which was become the first CIO of Renaissance. Renaissance asked me to really come in and create a IT strategic plan that tied to the business plan. And the business plan is to really grow from 200 million in premium to 300 million in premium in 3 years. Sounds great. Loved it. So when we came in, started here, and the first thing we did was really to create that strategic plan. To really summarize it, is a vision statement that we had. And that's to accelerate Renaissance growth through the use of adaptable technology. Tie our IT plan to the business plan. From a personal perspective, graduated from Indiana University. Go Hoosiers. Thank you. Big game tomorrow. Won't talk about football. Married for 27 years to my wife, Michelle. We have 2 children. Son graduated from IU, and my daughter is currently a junior at DePaul. Spent many years with the kids, as many of you probably have, traveling across the beautiful Midwest for soccer, tennis, and any other sport you could imagine. When that wasn't going on, loved going to live sporting events, concerts. I absolutely love rock concerts, reading, and then working on puzzles. So let's talk about a movie. What are the steps for creating a Hollywood blockbuster? First is production. You need to create a script. How do you do that? You go through, you research your background, you research the topic, you understand what exactly you're wanting to put together. And then you have to understand your audience. Who are you trying to sell it to? Are you trying to sell it to those hardcore Comic-Con attendees? Are you trying to sell it to someone on a date night? Are you trying to sell it to both? You need to understand your audience so you can point your message that you're going to deliver to them. Once you have your plan in place, and once you have your movie in place, the next part is really building that excitement. How do you do that in Hollywood? You engage people to promote your film. You do private screenings. You have some members come in. They do a view. They may have some critiques on the film. You can adjust the film before you actually release it. You share it with movie critics, get their feedback. And then you start creating those trailers. So everyone's seen these. 2 months out, you get that 30-second snippet. 1 month out, you get the minute-and-a-half trailer. And then a couple days before, you get the full trailer. What is that doing? It's building the excitement. You want to have that message heard over and over and over. Once the excitement's built, that's when you have the premiere. That's when you go on that road show. That's when you see the actors on the late night show circuit. That's when you see the social media blitz. That's when you see the commercials every 5 seconds on every show you can ever imagine. You want to get the message out. Get the message out, get the message out so everyone can hear it. After the premiere, the next part is the reviews. So now you get your Rotten Tomatoes score. What worked? What didn't? Are you going to create a sequel? And if so, if you're going to create that sequel, what do you need to do? What course corrections do you need to make that happen? So let's talk about production. And now let's get a little more into the strategic plan. So similar first step here, you have to do your research. And so what I did in my first 30 days, and actually probably a couple weeks before I started, I interviewed our entire leadership team. I interviewed the entire IT team, and I interviewed all of our strategic partners. And what I did was I asked 3 questions. What's working? What's not working? And what would be considered success? And then I listened, and I took a lot of notes. I took one of these books here in my interviews and filled it up with all the notes I took. Just hearing what was going on. I tried to stay away from any preconceived notions, and I wanted to really understand what was working and what wasn't in this organization. Once I had that background information, the next step was to actually create the plan. In creating the plan, there was a couple steps I really wanted to make sure I addressed. One, tie the IT plan to the overall business plan. Overall business plan, Renaissance, grow from 200 million to 300 million. What is our IT plan? To help accelerate that growth through adaptable technology. Why adaptable technology? Because our customers are small and they have a lot of different variances between every single customer base that we need to address. Need to address the concerns that were heard in the interviews. It's hard to onboard people. I don't know where to go when I have an issue. We need to address those, and we need to address those in business terms. I didn't tell them that I'm going to implement ITIL for our help desk because no one would have got it. What I did tell them was we're going to have a single point that you can go to solve a problem. We will respond to you with an issue, we'll respond with the status, and we'll keep you updated. Talk in their terms. So now you have the campaign, or now you have the plan, and now to me, again, is really the most critical piece of this, and sometimes I think as IT professionals, we forget. That's the marketing campaign. That's building the excitement. That's getting people on board. The day you walk into that boardroom to sell your plan, you should already know it's going to be a success because of all the work you did ahead of time. So what did I do? I shared the plan with a few confidants. In our case, I went to our vice president of our PMO. I went to our COO, and I shared the plan with them and asked them a couple of questions. Does it resonate with you? Do you understand where we're wanting to go? What's missing? Is there anything missing in the plan? Are there things maybe that we need to address that aren't in the plan? And then what's extraneous? What is maybe over there that, it's not important right now? Taking that feedback, no different than when you had that private screening of that audience, taking that feedback allowed me to craft a plan to exactly the target I was aiming to hit. We have the plan. We know it's solid. Now let's start creating those trailers. And so what I did here was I basically created a slimmed down plan, 4 or 5 slides. And then I went to town halls. I went to our finance town hall. I shared with them, here's what I've heard in general terms. Here's the direction we want to go in general terms. Pointed the message towards them. We will have a sound budget. We'll have a budget you can plan by. We will help you lower your expense ratio. Target the message towards your audience. Went to the sales town hall, did the same thing. Slimmed down plan, targeted the message. We will help you get more business in the door. We will make Renaissance one of the premier customers to be able to do business with. Target your message. So as you've created that excitement and you're building that up, the next part, of course, is it's actually the time for the movie. It's time to release the plan on the masses. It's time to share what is the vision that's going to happen. As you've gone through these interviews, as you've gone through these town halls, you have a better understanding of your audience. You're now just reinforcing that message. You're continuing to connect with them. You're continuing to speak in their terms. And you're going to continue to tie the plan to what matters most. 2 things to every single person. 1, to help the business do better. But what is really the most important thing everyone cares about? What's in it for me? Okay. And so when you tie that plan, when you put that plan out there, you need to explain to them, you as a customer service representative, this is what you're going to get out of it. You as a financial analyst, this is how this is going to benefit you. You need to tie the plan to how it will impact them. The plan's out there. You're sharing it with people. but you can't do it all yourself. There's not enough hours in a day. And so you need to really create ambassadors. In my case, what I did was I enlisted my entire IT team. Okay. To do that, you really have to paint the destination. You have to paint where you're wanting to go. So think of this. It's a Saturday morning. You take your 2 kids, you throw them in the car, and you say, we're going to go on a 10-hour car drive. Does anyone think that's going to work well? Is that going to be a fun experience for anyone? No. Yeah, no, miserable. What if you do this, though? 2 weeks before, you tell them we're going to Disney. A week later, you tell them when we get there, we're going to go to Animal Kingdom. We're going to go to Cinderella's castle. We're going to have breakfast. We're going to see the fireworks show. Now you're starting to paint the picture of that destination. You're painting where you want to go. Now, when they get in the car, it's a different story. Now they're excited. Now they may drive you crazy for different reasons, but they're excited to get there. And as you go on that journey with them, you continue to remind them the things you're going to do. What is that picture? What is that destination you're trying to reach? Reinforce it, reinforce it, reinforce it. You have your ambassadors. You've started sharing your plan, and now it's that road show. So this is, again, this is when you're out in front of everyone. One of the steps I did was we have an annual sales convention, which is our entire sales team and 2 levels of our leadership team. I presented the plan to them, shared it with them. Here's what we're doing. Here's what we're going to do from an IT perspective. Here's how we're going to help the business. Here's how we're going to help you. Share that plan. Tell them how it's going to help. Tell us how it's going to help them. Speak in their terms. And then one of the most important things, and something took me a while to learn in my career, is I'm a very much task-oriented person. So I would complete a task, immediately go to the next one. Complete that task, immediately go to the next one. Something I learned was I need to slow down, celebrate, and publicize those successes. As parts of the strategic plan are achieved, we need to share that with the team. We need to celebrate. We also need to celebrate with our peers. We need to share it with our peers. Let them know what's going on, what excitement is happening. You heard us talk about it. Now it's happening. Understand that. Let them see that. And then equally important is share course corrections. If things are going, the business has changed, we need to make changes. Share those plans. So we have another sales conference in February where I will share the progress we made with that plans and what's changed. What are we going to do different? Throughout this whole thing, remember something simple, something easy. Repeat the message. Repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. There's a scientific study a few years ago that said it takes 7 times for someone to hear and to retain a message. You cannot say the message enough of what your plan is. Share it with everyone. And with that, questions?
I have so many questions, Earl. Using the idea of the business units as your communication conduit, that's not trivial, right? I mean, you really had to customize for every group. What sort of feedback did you get from those business units?
The feedback I heard was someone's talking to us. Someone's listening to what our concerns are, and you're addressing them. Here's the plan. Every unit I talked to was so incredibly excited because of the message they heard and how it was going to impact them. You can talk in broad terms, we're going to increase sales. Okay, great. Yeah. How's that going to help me? And that's really what you have to do. And so you really need to take time to craft those messages to target the audience you're going after.
Did you find aligning with the business difficult, or, you were off? I mean, it's been left out of IT conversations for so long that, I just wonder what kind of effort you had to make and how you assimilated feedback from the business units. Did you have to make lots of changes, little changes?
It was really focused on communication. And as IT leaders, one of the things we have to remember is communication. You cannot communicate enough. You go, hey, I just told my business partner that. Well, guess what? You're going to tell them that 4 more times, 5 more times until it's retained. Have that communication. Listen. Be an active listener. And this is, a conversation I've had with members of my staff before. Listening, you have to be active. You're not looking to respond. You're looking to hear what the concern is. Write it down. Take a breath and then respond. That way that you know you're answering the question they have. And then ask them, did I answer your question? What else can I do for you? How can I help? The message I have to my team is every single person outside of IT is a customer of ours. It doesn't matter if they're inside our company, outside our walls, they are a customer of ours. Our responsibility is to make sure we are servicing our customer base.
Finally, what do you see as your periodic approach to this? Will you revisit the town halls? You mentioned the sales meeting in the coming year. How do you plan on making this a cyclical, regular part of the business?
So it's exactly that. We'll have the town hall or the sales meeting here in February. And I will revisit town halls. So I have no concerns. I love going out and just talking to the people in the company to hear what's working with them, what's not. That may be with the entire group. That may be just pulling a financial analyst inside, a little more challenging virtually, but in just talking to them, how's your job going? What's working for you? And then also, again, use those ambassadors of your team. What are they hearing? What's working with them? In this virtual world that we live in right now, it is very important to go and have those conversations with your team. Do it sporadically. Don't say, I'm going to call Bob every Thursday. Call him a Tuesday, call him Monday. Hey, I just want to talk. I want to see how things are going. What's going on? Talk with you about work. Talk about life. Talk about anything. Just make those connections and hear what they're saying and then address them. Everyone loves listening. And the most important part is to make sure you address the concern.
Any questions from the audience? Let me get up to you with the mic, please. Donnie?
So you came in to do this for your business, but how did your IT team take all the change that you're putting against them?
The most important part was creating that vision and really drawing that out and showing them where we were going. I could have had an approach where I went in and said, we're just going to do this and been done with it. It would have failed miserably. It's sharing that message, and no different than with our business partners. I did the same thing with our IT. Every month we have a full IT team meeting and shared with them, here exactly is where we're planning on going. Here's what we're talking about from the strategic plan. I shared that with some of our leaders in the IT department to make sure it was resonating with them to really build that out. So again, it's that communication and just sharing pieces. One of the things, and I heard it a couple of weeks ago, I think through Jeff, but is one of the things is you have to realize is you've spent months working on this. When you're sharing this, it's the first time they've heard it. Don't expect them to totally accept it right away. You have to build in that acceptance period.
Great point. Tanya?
Hey, Earl. So this is a great approach, right? So it's a great communication approach, kind of like an OCM type of approach. How do you scale that, right? So it's really good at your level to be able to communicate in that way, to reinforce that thing across your company. How do you teach your managers, directors, how to do that so that it kind of scales down appropriately?
That's a great question. So it takes time, it takes patience, and it takes that continuous message being sent over and over. And sometimes, honestly, it takes course correction. They kind of went off this way. Afterwards, you pull them aside. Really the direction we're trying to go is a little more to the left here. You're a little far off to the right. Do that in private. Have those conversations and help that course correction occur. Again, they're learning the plan as you go.
Hey there, Earl. What's one or two things that surprised you? Good surprise, bad surprise during this process?
One of the things I absolutely loved in the process was how receptive our business leaders were to the process, how amazing of partners they have been. They have embraced the challenges. They embrace the change. They understand where we're going. They offer open feedback. I've absolutely loved it. It's been an absolutely amazing experience.
Genevieve?
Good morning. Very great content. So just one of the things I think, just wanted to kind of wrap my head around. So when you have this large strategic plan, out of that comes projects, programs, and different things, right? Because, your businesses have different priorities. So I think just how did you help to keep those priorities in place, right? So you have a team that's executing on all the things that kind of fall from that strategic plan and that program and that project. How do you help keep them in line where, now I have this project and I'm working on this thing, but is it really part of the strategic plan? Is it a priority? Is it a 2022 versus a 2025? How did you kind of help shape some of those individual things?
Yep. So being a relatively new company, Renaissance has been in business a little over 20 years. What I did was actually partner for our vice president of our PMO, who started actually shortly after I did, and our CFO. And with the three of them, we created a project prioritization process. We created a tied to our business plan. What are we tackling? Because one of the things we realized was we were tackling way too many things at one time. And so we actually created for 2022 a project prioritization process. We created a business roadmap. On the business roadmap, we then underneath that have created a technology roadmap. Again, tied technology to the business roadmap. So that's where we've gone to really try to streamline what we want to focus on. Being a small team, we need to really focus our resources on the things that buy us the most benefit. ROI analysis is key when we go through and do project prioritization.
Any other questions? This is really excellent. Oh, Michael.
Hey, Earl, great presentation. And I like your focus on communication, right? Because I think, as we all know, that's something that I think from an IT perspective, we're always striving to get better at. The one thing that I've seen, organizations struggle with is as IT leaders or as IT professionals, we typically don't like to tout ourselves. Right. I mean, we like to get the win and then kind of go on to the next one, like you said, task oriented. But that's typically not a formula for success, right? You kind of really, the old adages of no news is good news is probably not true. Can you give us some examples of what you're doing within your organizations in order to kind of, show the wins to the business and what you're doing there to start to gain credibility on your strategic plan?
Sure. So every week we have an executive team meeting, and when I go there each week, I share what we've been successful at and share those. When I'm talking to town halls, I share what we've been successful at, what's worked. But same thing, I talked about this a little bit in that review, is I've also talked about course corrections. We tried our data approach. We tried one approach. It didn't work as well as we were hoping. So we've shifted course, and we talked through that. We just talked through that about a week ago. So here's really the path we're going to take now, and have that communication with them. There's not a day that goes by where I'm not talking to at least 2 or 3 of my business partners, talking about what we're working on, where we're going, what's working, what's not. So it again, something it took me a long time to learn, because I tell you what, Michael, same thing. I was under that old vision of, well, I'm just working away, everything must be good. And it took me a while to realize that no one else knows you're working away unless you tell them. Okay. And this is a message I share with my staff quite often. If you take that email, respond that you got the email and that you're going to work on it. You may work on it in 3 days. Tell them you're working on it in 3 days, but respond so they know that it is in your field of attention. Don't just assume you're busy working on it, that they think you're working. They don't know. Share that information, communicate to them what's happening.
Any other questions? Earl, thank you very much. We're grateful for your presentation. Let's take a short break and grab some more coffee and biscuits and gravy, and we'll get Tanya and Angel up front to finish out our presentation. Thanks,
Doug.
Earl.
All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you for having us today. My name is Tanya Wallace. I'm a director of Agile Delivery at Dealer Track, which is a subsidiary of Cox Automotive. We have a sister company next year in Capital, right around the corner. I've been in IT since 2002. So I kind of tripped and fell into starting a small app dev company with a partner. Originally I was in marketing and journalism and all things non-IT. And so I came on board and started a company, and I fell in love with inspection and adaption, collaboration, transparency. Didn't really realize that it was a thing called Agile until a lot later. So I got involved in that. I raised kids. I have 6 children, all the way from 28 to 12. Follow that. And I'm still alive. So I say I raise athletes for a living. All of my kids are athletes. I have 3 D1 football players, and I'm raising a slew of other athletes as well, which provides a lot and a ton of life lessons that you can't teach on a regular basis. So that's me.
How do you follow up with that? Like, I got 2 kids. I'm barely making it here on time. Okay. Well, hi all. Angel Henry. I like to say that I'm the ceiling breaker because I'm the author of Dents in the Ceiling, Tools Women and Allies Need to Break Through. And speaking of allies, thanks to this very event here, I got to meet my ally, Jeff Tunn, who happened to be a reviewer on the book. So, little plug there. Thank you, active ally, Jeff. Let's see here. I had the privilege of interviewing 30 African-American women, literally from coast to coast, from baby boomer to millennial, and get their experiences of what it's like to work in tech, but more specifically, when those workspaces are not inclusive. And so that's what Tanya and I are here to talk with you about today, which is inclusion and diversity in the workplace. Oh, use the clicker. Okay, so we're going to unpack this in 3 parts. The first part is really going to talk about the research done by Dr. Robbins and his take on inclusion and diversity in the workplace. And then next, well, we wouldn't be good agilists if we didn't give you 6 practical, actionable techniques that you can take with you back to your workplace. And finally, we'll walk you through an example of what it's like, because it's the real world. There are challenges, there are considerations, and it's not always easy. So we'll walk you through an example of what it's like when we try to apply some of those tools and techniques and what really happened. So with that, Tanya, please share with us some of the work and the research that Dr. Robbins has done around inclusion and diversity.
Absolutely. I'll go ahead and move through. All right, guys, are you ready for a little brain exercise here? We got to get our brains moving a little bit this morning. I am going to give you a word, okay? You guys are going to have to say this word out loud, like really express yourself 10 times. And then I'm going to ask you a question, see if you get it right. Are you guys ready?
Yes.
Out loud. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes.
Oh, that was really good. So this is my first time doing this. This is actually an exercise from Dr. Robbins. So, okay, gotta wake up. Okay. We're going to say the word joke 10 times. Ready? Go.
Joke, joke,
Louder.
joke, 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 joke.
What color is the center of an egg?
Yellow.
Who said yolk?
I heard it.
All right, here's another one. Everybody raise their hand. Raise your hand. Make an okay sign. Put your okay sign on your chin. On your chin.
Oh.
It worked. That's awesome. So the reason that he starts off with that, and again, these are six tips from Dr. Steve Robbins. Dr. Steve Robbins is a Vietnamese immigrant, okay? So he took his childhood experiences, he's a neuropsychologist, his passion for diversity, and turned it into an inclusion and diversity theory, okay? He's incredible. My company, Cox Automotive, allows us to be blessed to have a course with Dr. Robbins. So I took the course in leadership or lead with inclusion. And he also wrote a book called What If? So if you don't have the book, you haven't met Dr. Robbins or don't know his material, please do and go and see him. And no, I don't get paid to advertise Dr. Robbins. But our brains are inherently lazy. So if you think about it from a daily perspective, we go about our routines, we get up in the morning and we just go, right? Somebody asks us a question, we just answer, we just do, right? Sometimes, and a lot of times, our brain trades speed for accuracy, quality for accuracy. So that's point number one that Dr. Robbins comes through and says, our brains are just inherently lazy. Everybody say that? Our brains are lazy. Yes. All right. So the number one reason to address inclusion is the fact that our brains are hardwired to belong. Think about this concept. You got a mother and a father, they're having a baby, right? They go to a support group and they start taking Lamaze and they all come together and they form a group of common interests, which is giving birth to a child. They have a child and the mother is now breastfeeding, so she needs to belong to a breastfeeding club, right? Kid gets in elementary and he joins Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, right? Then it's the sports teams and you go off to college and university and you are now a part of the sorority and fraternity. Thank you. You guys still awake?
Well, their brains are.
Yeah. And it goes on and on and on from there, right? And then we get into corporate America and we're part of the ERGs, right? The Employee Resource Group. So if you think about it from that perspective, it's just survival, it's just community. So if we think about hiring practices, we're sitting across from candidates, we're engaging with people, our lazy brains want people in our companies that we feel belongs in our group, right? So that's just inherent. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just inherent. So that's point two. Our brains are hardwired to belong. We have to understand that without inclusion, diversity will fail. Think about this point, okay? I'm an owner of a company. I'm saying, hey, you know what? In 2022, we're doing it. We're just gonna diversify. We're gonna bring in all these different folks from different places and races and creeds and backgrounds, and we're doing it. We're gonna meet that goal. Yes, we are. Shaking this thing. What happens when you bring in diverse people into a group, a room, a setting, and there is no trust, collaboration, right? Courage. It fails miserably, right? Because you cannot communicate correctly. So you have to have a sense of inclusion. People have to feel included in that group in order for diversity to be successful, right? Research says that a diverse group who gets along with high collaboration is more successful than a homogeneous group. So inclusion must precede diversity to be successful. On to the next point. Biases. Cognitive shortcuts that our brain takes just to conserve energy. Why? Because we're lazy. Our brains are late. I told you guys, we started off with this. Our brains are just inherently lazy. So our brains develop a pattern over our lifetime of just making shortcuts and having tendencies and our likes and dislikes. You got up this morning, you put on the blue shirt because that's just what you like. It's blue, it's in your closet, you love it,
Oh,
right?
it's good with his eye color.
It does look good. I mean, glasses look really amazing, but that orange right there is killer right But it's a pattern, right? It's just our preferences that we're used to kind of growing up with. Understand that our brain is 2% mass, but it takes 20% of the energy in order to process information and make decisions. So, and that's just regular decisions. That's just making sure you got one foot in front of the other, right? And you don't trip over the stairs when you're walking up the stairs on the way, because that would be embarrassing, and you don't want to be embarrassing. Yada, yada, yada. Let's put you in a new environment. Let's put you in an interview with a candidate sitting across from you. Let's give you a challenge in front of you, and then another challenge in front of you. You know how we go from meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting to meeting? And we context switch all day long. Our brains are pumping that energy, right? So new environments require more energy, more brain power. And our brains are inherently
lazy.
They got it. I think they got it. You think they got it? I think they got it. Next point that Dr. Robbins makes. There's something called an ancient brain versus a modern brain. So our lazy brain, 70 to 80% of the day, uses patterns, biases. It's lazy, right? It's designed to quickly react without any processing of information. It doesn't even think. It leans into patterns to make decisions rather than processing information. That's your ancient brain. 70 to 80% of the day, we are making decisions using our ancient brain and relying upon patterns. 20 to 30% of the day, we're using our modern brain. Our modern brain is used for critical thinking, processing information, strategic roadmaps, technology roadmaps that we talked about, right? 20 to 30%. So if we're expending all of that energy just to try to get our job done, and you put a candidate in front of us, we're talking about promotion, internal opportunities, what do? We lean into our ancient brains. We lean back into our patterns and our bias. We lean back into wanting a sense of community and belonging. So we're more comfortable in hiring and promoting people that look like us, act like us, right? Think like us. When we have an interview and somebody starts talking about golf, we're all in. But wait a minute, they can't even do the job. Yeah, but they're golfers. They're golfers though, right? So if you think about it from that perspective. Our modern brain activates to disrupt our ancient brain. But because we only use a small percentage of it, we have to be careful and intentional on when and how we activate it. Last point I'll make. Insider versus outsider mentality. I thought that this was really, really poignant when Dr. Robbins made this point about insider versus outsider and why inclusion must precede diversity. We are more likely to hire folks that we feel fit inside of our group rather than folks that we feel don't fit inside of our groups. So I'm a Buckeye. And if I'm traveling, right, I'm on the highway and I'm traveling to and fro wherever I'm going, and I see somebody that just cut me off, right? But they have a Buckeye license plate. I mean,
They were in a hurry.
they probably didn't see me.
Yeah.
Right? I'm gonna give them all of the grace and forgiveness in the world because, I see you. Okay, right? Now, I'm driving a little further, okay? Daggone Michigan thing, yeah. Cut me off, he's stupid. Stupid, lazy, arrogant, right? Entitled, right? I'm calling out, road rage has now just overtaken my whole soul. That's because I feel that the Buckeyes are insiders, right? And I have more of an affinity and more acceptance, and more tolerance for them. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So sometimes we lean into this whole thing where, hey guys, you gotta have diversity, you gotta be able to diversify. Yeah. You have to create an environment of inclusion first, acceptance and tolerance to broaden out that inclusive environment in your organization first, so that diversity hiring can happen and be successful. Did I say that right?
You did.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna move on here. We're gonna start talking about a couple of tips. 6 tips, because we're Agilists, to be able to help you guys and to really think about how to diversify your organizations. Number 1, audit your current hiring practices. So when I became a director, one of the things when I started hiring, I started to understand the candidate pool that I was getting was not diverse. It was not diverse. So I could lean into, okay, well, this is the candidates that are being sent to me, and I'm okay with that. Or I can use my modern brain to challenge the ways of thinking of folks that were using their ancient brain, right? And so I got a meeting with my recruiters. I had a couple of different recruiting companies. And I said, hey, so here's the deal. I have to have a diverse candidate pool. It's mandatory for me, it's not an option. So let's talk about what that means. Let's talk about what you're currently doing within your pool selection so that we can work together. It didn't take that much time or energy, to be honest with you, to be really clear and honest. Once I set the expectation, held them accountable, and partnered with them well in order to give solid feedback for the candidate pool selection, I've had a diverse candidate pool ever since, which is amazing. Number 2, set small department goals. I've seen a lot of organizations come out with the big boom. We're lifting everything up with diversity by X%. That's great, but can you actually lift the percentage in one department? Set small department goals. Iterate there. Ooh, did I say iterate?
And incrementally.
Inspect and adapt there, right? Set small department goals. Pilot things. Figure out things small and then scale out. Then scale. 3, represent diversity. This is just another part of auditing your current hiring practices, but representation within diversity within marketing material, advertising, having representation of your current company, right? Come do interviews, get them out there, help them celebrate the company, helps draw people in, helps them to feel comfortable. And that's home too, because we really just want to belong, right? So represent well, promote internally, and start to build that inclusive practice. Hey, Angel, do you have any more tips?
Well, I can think of one.
Okay.
So for the next 2 around candidate screening and candidate standards, I'll give you an example. So I'm a senior director at Genesys, and I'm leading our agile transformation journey. Okay, well, it can't be just me, right? I mean, I have 700 implementation consultants worldwide that I have to touch and get us to move from waterfall to agile. I need help. I need some serious help. I need somebody with some experience. I need an enterprise agile coach.
Yes.
So I put it out there, right? It's on LinkedIn, it's on Indeed, the recruiters have it, and in come an influx of 150 resumes. Okay, my ancient brain is kicking in. I have about, if we're lucky, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 10, maybe 15 seconds per resume that I'm scanning, that I'm looking through to get it down to the 20 and the 10, and then people I want to phone screen and interview, right? So I'm flipping through, and Tanya Wallace. Well, by her name, Tyree, I'm gonna assume she's probably African-American female. And I scroll down to the bottom and she graduated from Ohio State. She's a Buckeye. I'm a Buckeye too. Oh my God. She learned Agile. Oh my God, she went from government to the N50. She's had 3 experiences and she owned her own company. Oh my gosh, this lady is fabulous. I'm gonna like her. She's going to the top of the stack. I'm calling her. She's getting a phone screen for sure. I can't wait to talk to her. Now I get her on the phone and she's great, but maybe not as much energy as I'd hoped. Maybe not as much enterprise global experience as I need. But unfortunately, somewhere in that stack, I flipped right over Jose Hernandez. Now, Jose has all the experience, plenty of global enterprise agile coaching, but I had a bad experience with another Jose at my other company. I mean, those Hispanics are just really kind of stubborn, a little obstinate, right? I mean, he still had some waterfall ways about him that just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. He's not in. Okay. So I missed out on this Jose because of my previous experience at another company with waterfall Jose. Now, wouldn't it be great if there were 1 or 2 other people looking at that stack of resumes other than just me? Maybe one of my other candidates, my peers in my group, Mark, maybe he reviews and he says, wait a minute. What about this Jose guy, Angel? He looks pretty good. Look, maybe we should phone screen him. Oh, really? You think, Mark? Oh, okay, we'll give it a chance. Jose's back in the pool. It's just that simple. So, practical tips. 1, please have more than just one person looking through your resume stack. I get it, we get it. Our brains are lazy, ancient brain. We're trading speed for quality. I get it. I mean, we have that opening to fill. I've got some metrics that I've got to meet. I've got some critical success factors. I've got the SVP breathing down my neck, wondering when is this strategic plan going to be in place? When are we going to execute? I got to get somebody in there like yesterday. But maybe I need to take a beat and include some other folks and go through that stack with another pair of eyes. Brings me to the next point. 2 in a pool effect. Who would have guessed this? I had no idea. So it turns out Harvard Business Review has discovered that there is this effect, a phenomenon called 2 in a pool. This is how it works. If there is just 1 female candidate, after we've kind of sliced it down, remember we went from 100 to 50 to 20, phone screened some folks, now we're down to our top 3 candidates. It's just 1 female, 0% chance of getting a diverse hire. 0. But if there are at least 2 in that bottom stack, 79% increase of getting a diverse hire. It gets better for those that are minorities or underrepresented ethnic and racial and religious groups. If you have 2 at the bottom, goes up over 100%. So the need to diversify the candidate pool is not an option. It's critical. Now, inspect and adapt. We, of course, love this because it's just all about feedback. I mean, we heard it from Earl earlier. He walked through his strategic plan from IT to say, hey, look, I got this plan. I've partnered with the business. Here it is. But I didn't go in a room and figure this out all by myself. I talked with people. I got feedback. I whittled it down. I left some stuff out. I included some stuff I didn't think about. Same thing with your candidate pool process, your hiring process. Who are you talking to? I hope you're talking to your hiring managers about the process and how they think it's going. And I certainly hope you're talking with your recruiters and setting expectations that you will have a diverse candidate pool. But have you thought about the most important stakeholder in this whole thing? The candidates themselves. Wouldn't it be cool if you could have just literally 1 or 2 question survey out to the candidates after they've had their phone screen? And then maybe the candidates after they've had their second interview. Wouldn't it be great to get their feedback about how they think about your company and the process? Are they thinking about selecting out because they don't think they fit in? We need you to activate your modern brains on this one. We can no longer go with the old patterns and the old ways of how we cannot fish from the same pond. As much as I love candidates from Ohio State, as much as I love candidates from Ball State, as much as I love my Purdue Boilermakers, I can't always go to those programs. There are HBCUs out there, historically Black colleges and universities. I highly recommend creating and nurturing and cultivating relationships with their provosts, professors, deans of computer science, information science, and computer engineering programs. Phenomenal graduates. Wouldn't it be great to fast track some of their grads right into those open positions that we needed filled yesterday? All right, so let's walk through an example of what this looks like in the real world. We gave you a little bit of theory, but we know it doesn't always go down like that. That's right. Okay, so real world example. This is an example of what it looks like to start with everyone. Wouldn't it be great if you had everyone that you needed? All the experience, all the skill set, the accountability, the authority, all in one room to make decisions quickly and effectively? Well, I had that experience. It was magic. I was sitting there, again, senior director at Genesys. I was probably about a year into the role. So this is the end of 2019. And we had a meeting where we were woefully understaffed when it came to our cloud implementation specialists, okay? So we were moving all of our customers, well, not all, the majority of our customers from prem to the cloud, right? That was our mission in life. And we were about somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 implementation consultants understaffed. We just didn't have enough hands to move everybody and to do all of that work. So now my other hat, I wear a lot of hats, by the way. So my other hat, I'm adjunct at Ivy Tech. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, I just got done interviewing, right? And teaching students how to interview and how to, redo their LinkedIn profile and, what they should put on their resume. They're always clamoring for real world experience. I wonder if we could take some of those students and teach them our Genesys cloud technology, get them on the platform and have them do some of, just moving toggles and switches, some of the base work, right? To help free up our more value added consultants to do the higher end work, call flows and advanced call flows and that sort of thing. So I'm sitting there, I had this idea and I was like, well, let me see. So I literally picked up the phone and called the VP of IT at Ivy Tech, ran it past her. She said, heck yeah, I'm dumbing down the language. It was way stronger than that, if you can imagine, right? Heck yeah. And then I ran it past our HR business partner and SVP and got all 3 of them on the phone. And literally, and I'm not exaggerating, Tanya, within 20 minutes, we had the funding, the green light to go, and the people that we needed to make it happen.
Sounds like modern brain activity there.
Everybody had activated modern brain. So we had everyone that we needed. So I grabbed my good buddy Andrew, and he had already created a base one-on-one cloud-based training course. I grabbed our Ivy Tech person from our career services, and she already had the contacts to the different professors so that they could pull up, a group of students that would be interested, and everything connected within a matter of weeks. So from January to February, it was an 8-week pilot program, hence the word, I want to stress the word pilot program. We ran 14 students and taught them our Genesys Cloud platform. Our SVP had put in his back pocket and saved 4 spots for diverse hires. He particularly wanted females and those from underrepresented populations to be placed in our associate training program. They get paid, they get experience, it was a win-win, right? But they had to pass the Genesys test first. That was the caveat, okay? All right, so we go. I taught them Agile, an Agile training module. We had Andrew and one of his folks from his team teach them cloud. We get through, they do their demos. I was actually really impressed with the demos, by the way. It was pretty cool. So we got the SVP on, the VP, all the folks, they presented, we recorded it. It was a great time, and I think the students learned a lot. How many candidates did we get as a result of that program, that pilot program? How many you think? Shout out a number. 10. She said 0. Anybody else want to mention this? Our 4, we think we hit our 4? Anybody else? All of them. All of them, I wish. I'm wishing too. None. Didn't get any. We had 1 come close. We had 2 pass the exam. And we had 1 lady who, as it turns out, long story short, she was actually probably a better fit for marketing. So we sent her to our marketing internship program. So that was kind of the closest win that we got. But we didn't hit any. So what happened there? What happened? Well, oh, it's not changing. Okay.
Let me
Oh,
help you
we're
out
frozen.
here. We had some,
There we go. Feedback. Yes, perfect. Feedback. So we got feedback from the instructor twice along the way, right? We got feedback from our HR and our finance folks, right, to say we're good to go, we're greenlit there. Didn't get feedback from the candidates themselves, the actual students as they were going through the program. Turns out some of them had self-selected out before they even got to the halfway point and said, this is too hard, this isn't for me, I'm not a coder, or this isn't something I want to do, or actually I want to go into cybersecurity, I was just seeing what this was about. I found out, hey, I'm going to be moving right at the end, or I'm actually going into a 4-year program, so I really don't want to start a job full time. I mean, there were tons of legit reasons why, but we didn't know it until the very end, until we didn't get any. We couldn't understand why they weren't even taking the exam. I mean, I had worked my tail off to get it to them for free and got them the little free code, right? Take the exam. Even if you don't want to do this, man, this is going to be a great resume filler, right? I mean, even if you don't want to work at Genesys, man, we have a plethora of partners that you can go and work for outside of Indiana. I mean, we really sold this thing, so we thought. We opened the doors to diversity, and they didn't come because we failed on thinking about inclusion first. So, we're Agilists. We dust ourselves up, we picked ourselves off, and we are doing it better this time around, yeah, you betcha. We have a robust training and onboarding program. We have what I like to call culture coaches. We are now doing this program in Galway, Ireland, and we are setting ourselves up to work with our partners and our collaborators outside of our company to have a fully robust global program by the end of 2025. Why? Because next slide. We didn't make that ball over the net, but we learned. We learned from inspection and adapting. continuous feedback loops and doing it better the next time by leading with inclusion first.
I love it.
Thank you.
I love it. That was great. So let's do something, Angel.
Okay.
Let's put a challenge out there for these folks,
Ooh,
shall we?
All right. Okay.
So
what are we gonna do?
I think that I want to challenge this group of amazing IT leaders to review your hiring practices and challenge yourself to have a diverse candidate pool with your next hire.
Very next one.
Not 6 months down the road, not a 2022 goal, but your very next hire. Be very intentional. John Maxwell has a law of intentionality, 15 laws of invaluable growth. Chapter 1, the law of intentionality. Be intentional about diversifying your candidate pool. How about that?
And bonus,
Bonus round.
while you're doing that, at the same time, don't wait. Look at your inclusive practices.
Yes.
Look at what that experience is going to be like for the candidate as they come through that journey, and talk to the hiring managers and the recruiters, and of course, lesson learned from us, the candidates themselves.
Well, thanks for listening to us today. We hope that you learned something in our topic.
Questions, anyone? Certainly, you must have questions. I have 100. Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, so I have heard about the importance of hiring for cultural fit. And sometimes that feels at odds to hiring for diversity to me. So how do those two go together, or is cultural fit even something we should concern ourselves with? Or?
I'll take that. I'll take a stab at that one. That is not easy. I will be transparent with that one. That is a modern brain activity for sure. Okay, because I'll give you a real world example. I was at an organization here in Carmel. I was hiring for an IT project manager. It was a phone screen, and the gentleman, I had opened it up at the end for him to ask me questions about me, the company, the role. And he asked me the toughest question I had ever experienced from a candidate at that time. He said, well, Angel, talk to me about your inclusive practices. How comfortable, and he said it this way, how comfortable will I feel at the company if I bring my partner to the Christmas party? So, modern brain is triggered. I'm filtering. I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to get an HR violation. But at the same time, this is a moral and ethical dilemma because I want to be completely honest and transparent. The last thing I want to do is for this gentleman to join the organization because I just sold him a bill of goods, right? So I responded somewhere along the lines to say, that is a phenomenally good question. I will say that I have seen pockets of the organization that are making great strides in being more inclusive in their practices. There are pockets of the organization that still have a way to go, where quite transparently you might not be comfortable. But I can commit that if you were on my team, that will not be an issue for you. That was it. Okay. How to balance the cultural fit versus the cultural add. That is a discussion that I highly recommend you have with your interview committee before you start interviewing candidates. Have the questions already laid out that you're going to ask and be intentional about the type of candidate that you're looking for. And let's be clear, diversity is not always gender, ethnicity, or culture. The last person that I did, by the way, I did find that enterprise agile coach, by the way, and just totally coincident. I swear, she's a Buckeye, but it was a coincidence. Okay. We particularly found her because we were looking for someone who had a different personality than us. So myself and Mark were the two that started our VMO, our value management office. And I said, Mark, we're both blue. We're both analytical. I mean, we're gonna come up with an idea and we're going to it's gonna be analysis by paralysis over here. I mean, we're just gonna spin over this thing forever, right? And I love talking with you, Mark, you're great, but we're gonna need somebody in here that's gonna be a tiebreaker. And so we specifically ended up finding Linda, who's a red, right? So we were specifically looking for someone who was an addition to our team based on personality and the way that she thought. That was the diversity piece. So that's how I personally tried to tackle that, someone that's a good fit or a good match when it came to, are you comfortable working in a remote environment? Are you comfortable working in a large global company, right? Those are the types of cultural things that you can't get around, right? If somebody comes to Genesys and they're not comfortable working in a large global environment, it's just not going to work out. They will self-select out eventually or be miserable while they're there, right? So that's okay. We're absolutely fully remote, going to be hybrid at some point in the near future. We don't know when. So if you are the type of person who's extremely extroverted and you need that energy and you need to be in a room with someone, my team's not gonna be in, right? So that's okay, I need to be honest about that, not a good fit. But I do wanna add to my team from a cultural perspective when it comes to having a well-rounded group of men and women and ages and personality types.
So, Angel, I think I'm gonna add on to that. So from my perspective, when we have a platform, right? So as leaders in organizations, we all have platforms. We have meetings, we pull people in. So when I first became a director, I established or took over a Scrum of Scrums. Scrum of Scrums happens every Tuesday and Thursday morning for 15 minutes. And what I realize is, I've got like 100 and something people on this phone that I can talk to about anything. So what am I going to do and use my platform for? So there's this thing called the 16th minute. Anybody know about the 16th minute?
No.
Right? 16th minute is after your stand-up finishes and closes, then you can bring ad hoc topics up in that particular period of time. So what I started to do is I started to celebrate national days, something called nationaltoday.com. All kinds of coffee drinkers, right? Different holidays, Muslim holidays, like Indian holidays, African American holidays, different celebrations, Veterans Day, like just anything. There's like probably 5 or 7 different themes and topics every day of the week to celebrate. And what I found in celebrating and bringing up those topics, saying who's a veteran on the phone, who's celebrating this particular holiday, who loves donuts, like whatever that is, it started to pull people from different walks of life, and we started to merge and be more inclusive. We started using the chat to put pictures up and celebrate birthdays and anniversaries together. We started inspirational quotes, right? And we use the 16th minute for everything. But it's important for us to understand as leaders, it's our responsibility and privilege to create an inclusive environment, and it starts with us. It doesn't always have to be about work. So if I'm a leader and I lead and I say, it's my kid's birthday today, who else has a birthday today, right? And they start, and I lead, and I pop my picture of my kid or whatever I'm celebrating. And then all of a sudden, everybody else starts to pop their picture. I'm leading that. I'm influencing inclusion. So before the candidate asks the question, we can already lay the foundation and start doing the work inside of our organizations. By not just thinking inclusion is race or sexual orientation, but it's also about finding commonalities, right? Understanding that this organization, we need to build it like a family. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. We are at time. We can stay here. I want to make sure that anybody who has got an appointment can leave. We've got Ruth Miles and Bob Carter in the back here who can walk you out. If you've got more questions, feel free to stay. We've got this room. So feel free. Angel, Tanya, Earl, thank you so much for what you've done. Thank you for attending. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.